Hello YouTubers, I want to welcome you to another edition of Bargain Bin Gear. Okay, now, in the past few months, I've been focusing a lot on amplifiers and cabinets and those kinds of things. Along with that, I've also been playing and recording, musical ideas and tracks and so on. And, well, they've been kind of piling up, and I definitely needed an outlet for my music, So besides trying to license my music, I decided to put out albums again, right, which I haven't done in a little while. And picking up where I left off last, I'm proud to announce a new album has been released, and it's volume 355, my 355th album, and it's called Modern Guitar Aerial Perspective. And it contains 12 tracks. For those of you who aren't aware, basically I play solo electric guitar, right, with guitar loops done on the fly, and all the tracks are improvised on the spot. Okay, now here's the album cover, and really it's pretty basic. I mean, it's just a public domain photo, and it's got the title of the album, and that's about it. And really, it's probably one of the most basic album covers I've done. Just real super simple, real basic. Very similar to the song titles, I mean, I didn't spend a real long time on those either, It depends on the album. Some albums, I spent quite a bit of time on the album covers. So there it is. You can take a look at it. Aerial Perspective. So I had the collection of the 12 tracks, and when I went through the regular distribution services, DistroKid, CD Baby, and so on. And it took me a while, to figure out what order to put the tracks in and so on. And one thing I didn't realize is that a couple of tracks had wrong notes in them. And I didn't realize it at the time. And lucky I listened back and caught them. And another lucky thing is they were at the end of the track, so I only cut off like a couple seconds here and there. Not bad. So I ended up with about 40-minute album. And, well, we can take a listen to some of it here. Alright, so we're going to take a listen to some of this album. Obviously, I'm not going to play the entire album, but maybe I can shed light on a few of the tracks here. Now, keep in mind that this is, I think I had just gotten out of the hospital, and they had removed my gallbladder, and so I was recuperating. So that definitely affected the mood of the album, if you like. And as I recall, I was just glad to be home and being able to play again and that kind of thing, play guitar. Now, I wasn't planning on recording an album at all, and in fact, this is why out of the 12 tracks I didn't really have a track to begin the album, you know, and the closest I could find is the one we're going to listen to here. And it's the first track. We're not going to play all of it, but it kind of sets up the mood for the album. And don't forget, you know, this is just improvised on the spot right here. I think I was using it like Lydian mode there. Anyway, let's take a listen to it. Here's the introduction. And this is just from my camera, you know, microphone. So kind of a spacey sound. So you can hear that emulated bass, right? Just guitar is using an octave pedal and looping it and so on, adding the guitar. Now, this track is important because originally, you know, basically the tracks are just in the order that they were recorded. However, I didn't like the opening track because it was so dark. You know, using a lot of diminished chords and things. So that track, which was originally the opening track, becomes the second track. You can hear some of it now. I think it's definitely the darkest track on the album, and you can take a listen to it here. Diminished chord. And there's a guitar synthesizer, and it's actually from an Eventide H9 pedal. And it's a monophonic guitar synthesizer sound. In other words, you can only play single lines. If you try to play two notes at the same time, it kind of freaks out. It doesn't work very well. In other words, it's not polyphonic. But it's one of my favorite kind of guitar synthesizer sounds. Because it's a kind of an old school vintage sound. Alright, we'll play a little more of that, but yeah, you can see it's quite dark, right? Mood-wise. Okay, so I didn't want that track to open the album. It's just too dark, mood-wise, Alright, let's move on to the third track. And let me play that. I really like this one. Yeah, I really like this one. It has a delayed guitar and but let's just take a listen to it. So it definitely fits the album well, and it has a delayed guitar in there setting up all the loops for it. So that one fits really well. Let's move on to the fourth track. So this one kind of has a classical type sound to it, just because of the chords and the voicings I was using at the time. Let's hear it. Delayed guitar with delay. track is actually quite dark as well. It fits the album well, but quite dark. And in fact, it does reflect very much kind of the mood I was in, being back home and slowly recuperating. Alright, let's hear a little more of that. There's some more guitar synthesizer added as well, and that I think was from a Boss SY200 guitar synthesizer pedal. Alright, let's move on to the fifth track. And I really like this track. It's very, yeah, I really like this track. I like the melody of it, and it's kind of hopeful as well, so let's take a listen to that. Okay, so yeah, I really like that track. It's not quite as dark as the others. Alright, let's move on to the next one. Track 6. And that's actually a guitar synthesizer, but with a very, that's a guitar synthesizer playing the bass part, but with a very short loop, so that it's repeating constantly, bringing that tension, and then above it you have other guitar synthesizer. So this was pretty much a guitar synthesizer track. Let's take a listen. Super Champ X2 playing the clean guitar part over there. I think it's kind of an interesting track. Let's hear a little more. Remember the loop is very, very short. So when I was looping the clean guitar part, I could only get a few notes in before it started repeating. Anyway, I like that track very much. I like the mood that it creates. Now here we are at track 7. And as I recall, this is probably my favorite track on the album right here. Just the mood it creates, kind of at peace, resting. Alright, let's take a listen. Part that sounds like a guitar synthesizer, actually just guitar with reverb on it, and I'm using the swell, making swells. In other words, with the volume down, hitting the note and then turning the volume up, and you don't hear the pick attack. Okay, and I think this track is very nice because it really does build on the track before it. So let's take a listen to a little more of that. Yeah, I like that very much. Adding guitars there. So they're adding a couple layers of just clean guitar. Okay, move on to track 8. Now that's a really bizarre sound, and what that is actually harmonized guitar. So in other words, I would play a note and another note would harmonize with it, so it gives it kind of a strange sound. Let's take a listen to it. I think the harmonizing was done with the Eventide H9. It's one of the sounds that was on there. So let's hear it. this kind of sound is, reminds me, or is inspired by, if you like, some of the soundtrack music created by John Carpenter in like movies like Escape from New York, you know, when he's on the glider gliding into the city. It has a similar kind of harmonized guitar there. Alright, let's move on to track 9. Now what this is remember we started with a little introductory track at the beginning of the album, which is the Lydian kind of ambient music. Well, this is kind of an extension of that, very similar. Let's take a listen to it, and you'll hear that Lydian sound in there. This is kind of an improvisation, you know. Alright. So anyway, that goes on for a while, and then track 10. Let's hear that one. Okay, this is kind of kind of my usual style, if you like, music-wise. Starting with the delayed guitar, which I really, really like. Just the sound of it, you know. Very much kind of a, you know, David Gilmour-ish, Pink Floyd-ish type delayed guitar, you know. From like The Wall and so on and so on. Alright, so let's hear that. Yeah, a lot of double stops there. Several layers of that. Very much like the spacing of the double stops. You know, there's a lot of space in between the double stops, and as a result, you can hear the delay is on, and you can hear the double stop play at once, and it repeats, you know, 3 or 4 times. Pretty neat track. It goes on for a while. Now we come to the last 2 tracks, and the last 2 tracks are very similar to the introductory track. Remember that Lydian kind of mood, if you like. And they're both very, very short, you know. The truth is, I could have not included them on the album, you know, because they're kind of similar. And I think they're like only like a minute long each or something. But it seemed to fit the album so well that I went ahead and included them. Let's take a listen to track 11. So they're really just improvising, you know, trying out different lead lines and chords and so on. Okay. And here's the last track on the album, very, very similar to the last track, 11. So this is 12, same kind of thing, but like a minute long, you know. And that little Lydian part right there, lead line, is kind of like a recurring theme in the album. So let's hear that. Okay, so there you go. There's volume 355. And, well, I actually really like this album. It starts out quite as a dark album, if you like, you know, and then kind of, as it goes along, it kind of lightens up a bit. And there are, you know, a couple of tracks that I really, really like. And I think it has a lot of interesting musical ideas, you know. At least for my playing, you know. Trying out different ideas and so on. So, I'm actually, yeah, quite pleased with this album. You know, especially for it being improvised and so on. And I think that it really reflected my my mood at the time, if you like, which is very interesting, really. Now, besides this one, you know, I was recording quite a bit. At that time, you know, there wasn't much else I could do at the time. Recuperating, you know. And in the end, I think I recorded like album 355 to 363, I think it is. So I have quite a few more albums to release, and I hadn't really released an album in a while. I was just, you know, concentrating on different things. And definitely the things I'm recording now don't quite sound like the things that I had recorded in the past. You know, because I'm always trying to come up with new musical ideas, new sounds, and so on and so on. And I think for this album, you know, it's quite an interesting album, and I do think you have to be in the mood for it, you know. Now, you know, I hadn't listened to this material in quite a while, because I had recorded it and kind of forgot about it. And I'm actually quite pleased. The majority, I do find it's a kind of a dark album, you know, and very soft, if you like, you know. But the actual content I'm very, very pleased with. And it's quite a release for me to have an outlet for my music, you know, at least get it out there. And I really like it, so very pleased with that. And it'll be on most of the music services, you know, Spotify and iTunes and so on. And I also put it on a website called Bandcamp, which basically similar thing, you know, you can upload your album and have it available there. Another thing I didn't realize, there's YouTube Music. I didn't realize I had a page there, and it's actually quite accurate because it already had album 354, 353, 352, 351, and 350. I don't know if I had more than that, it's possible. So I wasn't even aware of that until I found it there. And here I hear some musical ideas, but you know, I've moved on, not to a different style, but to different musical ideas in later recordings. And the next album's already completed, and it's volume 356. So I'm going to put that one out there the next few days, quite frankly. In any case, you know, if you're not playing out live on a regular basis, you know, then it's kind of nice to be able to get your music out there for others to hear, you know, for better or for worse. But definitely I'm very pleased with that album. You know, there's some tracks on there that I really, really like. So glad to get it out there. And yeah, I've got quite a few albums to put out there. It's quite time consuming, quite frankly. So the next one will be volume 356. Alright, very good. I wanted to share that with you. Alright, see you next time. Okay, bye.